No doubt, no doubt. It's your man, DJ Wiz. Welcome to the Wiz Show Overtime. To all you viewers, thank you for tuning in. On the Wiz Show, I have the distinct pleasure to sit down and have a conversation with various people who are music artists, authors, poets, entrepreneurs, real talk with real people. And if you want to be a part of the Wiz Show, all you got to do is hit me up on my email at djwizkid@gmail.com. That's DJ, WHIZ. KIDD at gmail.com. Tonight, we have a hot show for you, no doubt. On this show tonight with me, we have contemporary gospel singer, songwriter, and, hear me now, and author, Natalie-J. That's right. Natalie-J is in the house with your man, DJ Wiz. I'm hyped. It's going to be a good conversation. So if you're ready, without further ado, help me welcome my sister in Christ to the show, Miss Natalie-J.
Hey, hey, hey! We're so glad to be here!
What's going on, my sister?
What's going on, family? I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for taking time out to be on the Wiz Show Overtime.
Absolutely.
So, as we get started, let the viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you introduced me as a singer, songwriter, and author. Not many people even go that deep. Let me tell you, you did your research. But first of all, before we get into me, let me give you your kudos. Blessings, and shout out to you for a great show, being a great host, YouTube channel, all of that. But let me tell you, this intro had me so hype. I was hype off the intro. I love the intro. So thank you for giving me something to kind of amp me up before we get on to into the interview portion. But yes, so I'm Natalie-J, singer, songwriter. I am from Lexington, Tennessee, small town country girl. I currently live in Memphis, Tennessee, where I live with my husband and my two children. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-month-old. So I have a newborn, keeping me on my toes. But I began singing at the age of 9 years old, singing in the church. My grandmother put me in the community choir, gospel community choir. It was called the Agape Choir. And I remember the first song that I ever led was I'll Fly Away. So here I am, this 9-year-old little girl singing this very mature, deep, serious gospel song. Didn't know then what it means. Didn't learn until I was a lot older what the song I'll Fly Away meant. But it didn't matter. You could have given me a microphone and had me sing the ABCs. But, I was just happy to be singing. Grew up to start writing music at the age of 15. Continued singing and singing in the choir and on the praise and worship team. So I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where I joined the Olive Branch Missionary Baptist Church. And there, Pastor Vinny was the pastor of the church. And so once I got married, my husband moved me right on over here to Memphis, Tennessee. And here in Memphis, I currently lead praise and worship and sing on the praise team at Breath of Life Christian Center, where Dr. Sammy Holloway is the pastor. And things are great.
Awesome. Wow. As I was looking at your bio, God has really, really blessed you. And I noticed that your grandfather was a preacher, huh?
My grandfather was a preacher, yes. So actually, both of my grandfathers, I mentioned my maternal grandfather, my mother's dad, who's a preacher. That's who I grew up in the household with. He was my grandfather who passed away in 2006. But my father's father is also a preacher. So I had it double time. So
oh my
church events was not an option. Your girl had to be in church. It was not an option. And so I was there for every event, honey.
I can imagine. Can't call you a PK. I can call you a PGK.
Thank you. You know what? I thought I was the only one that used that term. I use PGK all the time. We are here. We are here.
Yep,
PGK. I call myself that all the time. That is so funny. Yes, PGK times 2.
So, how was it like growing up? Having a grandfather as a preacher. Because as you look back, preachers back then they was old school. They were serious.
Very, very much so. It's funny because the preacher that I got growing up was so different than what my mom and my aunts, because he had 3 daughters and my mom had 3 daughters. It was all girls. And so the preacher that I got, the grandfather that I got, was much more soft. He was a whole lot softer than what they got growing up in terms of the firm and the strict grandfather. Like our grandfather, like he literally melted in our hands.
Wow.
So I played basketball. I also played college basketball. But my grandfather, he always came to my games, and he was this quiet, very like serious man that I could always tell when he was so proud. Like he would always sit on the front row of the games. And so when I would get home, he would always leave. So I would stay for the boys' game. So by the time I would get home, he was already there situated and settled and ready to give me his feedback. But it always ended up so like encouraging, and he just made me feel like I could tell he was so proud. And it was just a softer guy that I got, growing up, because we were the grandkids, you know what I mean? And so the grandparents always spoil the grandkids. We never really got spoiled, but he was a lot softer. He wasn't as firm on us as he was my mom and my aunts.
It's funny you say that, because when I look back, because I have older children, and how I discipline them versus the grandchildren is like a 360. Like you said, they just pretty much like melt in my hands, my arms, And then my daughters be like, "Dad, you ain't treat us that way. Why you treating them like that?" I say, "Hey, these are my grandchildren now. Hold on."
You didn't let us get away with that. We used to get away with so much. So much. But one thing he did not play about. Now, he wasn't just this like overbearing type, but he didn't play about the Bible and knowing scriptures. He would say, "I need you to recite this at the drop of a dime, and you needed to be able to recite it." And he didn't play about the Bible.
Whoa.
So yes, we had to have devotion outside of church devotion. We had to have devotion at home, and Bible time and scripture and prayer, all of that. Like he was really serious about us knowing and learning and understanding the Bible and interpreting it for ourselves, right? Because a lot of times you go to church and you rely on the minister or the pastor or who's ever preaching at the time to recite and give you these scriptures, and they can interpret it their own way and what is relevant and relates to them, and that's fine. But you also need to be able to understand it and interpret it in your own way. And so he did instill that in us in terms of knowing the Bible for ourselves instead of relying on others to teach that to us. So
that built your foundation
absolutely
to where you are today.
Absolutely.
Wow. Also, I was looking at the bio, and it said like you were the youngest lead singer in the choir.
Yeah, I was 9 years old, and it's so funny because when I say the people in the choir, it ranged from like mid-20s and up. So I was like by far the youngest individual. But the way that I am now, and just being, outgoing and just, not a shy bone in my body, my grandmother was like, we're about to channel this energy, and she likes to sing, so we're about to do something with all this little girl's energy, because I was just on fire. And they was like, well, you're gonna be on fire, for the Lord. And I said, amen, all right, let's do it. And so it put me in the choir, and looking back and talking to people who was in the choir with me, because my aunts always sing on both of my sides, also on both sides of my family, but they said I was the most annoying child because I wanted to sing.
No.
Right. Because I wanted to sing and lead all of the songs. And when I didn't get to lead the songs, I would cry.
Really? Wow.
I was like, really? It's like you would cry, and you would pitch your fit, and you would just like pout. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was
like, no, you didn't give my spot away.
Exactly. And so, so I'll Fly Away was one of my songs. So I knew, I'd always be like, I'd go to our choir director. Her name is Margie Simpson. I'll never forget. She was such an inspiration, and has been, since growing up and doing music and writing music. But I would always go to her, and when we would go visit other churches and have performances, like, can we sing I'll Fly Away? And it was so hard for her to say no, but she would find a way to like gently let me down. But I can only take so many no's now. I'm like, listen now, I'm keeping up with the no's. You done told me no 3 times now. When you gonna sing I'll Fly Away? You know what I mean?
I'm recording it. I am tallying
up these no's. but no, it was fun. You know what I mean? It was a lot of the singers who were passionate about church and God and music. We came together and we had this. I mean, what was what felt enormous to me at 9 years old. Probably about 50 members in this community choir. And to me, I was like, oh my goodness, we sound so good. But of course, I was 9 years old, so I was a little biased.
Mm,
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. And also said that you began writing poetry in fifth grade.
I did in the fifth grade. I'll never forget. Miss Brown was my teacher. She's African American, and she was like, Natalie, you know your English and all of that is so good. You should think about writing in this poetry competition that we're gonna have. And I'm like, poetry? Like, I'm not into poetry. Like, I'm not a poet. Like, just because I make good English grades doesn't mean I'm gonna write poetry. And so I remember thinking about, what did I want to write about? What do I want to write about? And so I remember writing about courage. I don't know what made me want to write about courage, but I wrote about courage, and I won the competition. I won the
Yeah.
competition in fifth grade, and so that kind of gave me the inspiration and the the kind of motivation to kind of continue writing poetry. And so that's strictly how it continued. And so Miss Brown continued to encourage me, keep writing, keep writing. It could take you places. You could do so much with your writing. And she was just so encouraging and positive. And she and her husband there, I mean, they're such a huge influence in my hometown. But in terms of children, doing and furthering their education and attending HBCUs. And so continue to write and began
Hmm.
to write my first song at 15. Now, it wasn't a gospel song. It was listen, it was what my grandmama and granddaddy said it was a worldly song. But it was not a gospel song. I remember this song was called Thinking Back, and it was about my boyfriend, and it was so mature, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And so anyways, long story short, I continued to write music, and
Hmm.
local artists would ask me, hey, I'm singing at this wedding or this the funeral. I read a lot of songs for individuals who sung at funerals. I don't know what that was all about, but I would I don't know. And so I would write the songs for them. They're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, this is great. And they would take and they would sing my songs just for free. I mean, small town country girl. Everybody knew me as Natalie, the little girl who sang in the choir. And so they'd be like, can you help me write a song? Or can you write me a song? Or can you help me come up with this hook? And I'm like, yeah, like easy. I can do that in my sleep. And so that's how it started, honestly, writing music.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Like I said, your whole bio is so inspiring,
Thank you.
and it's got all in it.
Thank
It's
you.
got,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's, it's
And
just
you know what, Wiz? Like, honestly, I did. I've always known and had no choice, like I said, but to attend and be in church and God in me. But I've always felt this sense of purpose that I just couldn't kind of put your finger on. And
hmm.
so I found myself like, even though like I said, attending church events and functions was not an option. So as I went to college and I sang in the community choir, I remember when I had probably been out of college for about 2-3 years, maybe somewhere in there.
Okay.
Recently graduated college, and I remember straying. And when I say I strayed, I stopped singing. I stopped attending. Absolutely, I stopped attending
Wow.
church, and I was just buck wild, like out there. I'm very transparent. I am all the way real deal Holyfield. Okay, do you hear me?
Hey.
I was out, like gone, like doing you name it. Okay.
Hmm.
And so I remember going back home and I was ashamed to like tell my grandmother and my grandfather, not only am I no longer in church, but I'm no longer singing because that was my grandmother's biggest thing. Every time I went home, and I went
Hmm.
home often, she'd be like, what songs y'all sing? And she would always want to listen to it because we would record our rehearsals. Let me hear your rehearsal. Let's hear the rehearsals. What did you guys practice and what did you guys sing? And so when I would go back and I would tell her, look, Granny, I'm not singing right now. It was just so hard for me to share with her. And she would always be like, God's going to take your gift. He's going to take that gift. He's going to take your gift And so I always felt guilty and ashamed, like, oh my goodness, God is gonna
Mm-hmm.
strip my voice and my ability to write music. He's gonna take it away from me. You know what I mean? Like God's gonna, punish me for not using my gift and exercising what he gave to me. So fast forward, went back to church, but I wasn't singing in the choir.
Okay.
I went back to church and I wasn't singing in the choir. And I'm one of those individuals with like where if I'm not feeling it and I'm not 100% in, I'm not gonna do it.
You're not going to do it.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do anything half-heartedly or at 50% or 90%. If I'm not 100% in it and my heart's not in it, I'm not gonna do it because I'm gonna feel like it's not fake and it's not genuine. And I did not want anyone, let alone God, receiving half or part of me. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And so I attended church and I was still reading up on my Bible and the word, but I just was not singing. I did not feel led to
Mm-hmm.
sing. And so went fast forward to moving to Memphis, continued to sing in the choir, and 2019. And so at this point, my grandfather had passed, and my grandmother passed in 2018. And so my
My
grandmother had
condolences.
passed, and so both of them had, thank you. And so both of them had passed. So 2019. And so now we're encountering a lot of like rough years. At
Mm-hmm.
this point, like 18, my grandmother passed. Then 19, my husband and I found out we had a 6-year-old son, Chase, and we found out that we were having another baby girl. And so excited. We have been praying for 2 years for this baby, excited to be having this baby. And we knew it was a girl. We knew that we were going to name her Cooper. Cooper
Mm-hmm.
Danielle was her name. And so everything was going great with the pregnancy. Again, this is 2019. And so I remember waking up one morning and my water broke. Well, it was
Mm-hmm.
really early, too early for me to be going into labor. And I lost the baby. I had to deliver her stillborn. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I lost the baby. And so again, back to back years of just trials and just obstacles and just devastation is what I was experiencing at this point. And so I remember my sister calling me and she was, trying to be encouraging, and because that was always my grandmother's role.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime Natalie was going through anything, like they knew to call Granny, and Granny was the only sounding board or voice of reasoning for Natalie. Only, when I say only. And so at this point, she was gone for about a year now. And so my sister called me and she tried, and she was like, God has. She couldn't get past God has. I
Mm-hmm.
remember screaming at her and telling her, I don't want to hear anything about God. I don't want to hear about God. I don't want you to say anything to me about God, because it's the same God that I prayed to for 2 years to bless me with the baby that he is now taking from me. This is the space that I was in.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in
I
a place
understand.
of hurt and despair and pain and devastation. And so I mourned. I mourned like I had never mourned before for this baby. And again, I was still grieving my grandmother at the same time, because I didn't properly grieve her passing, because I've always tried to put on this strong Black woman persona and not allow
Mm-hmm.
anyone to see me break or crack or hurt or
Right.
broken. Because that's just always been me. I've always been an upbeat person that brings sunshine and a smile to everyone else's face, and so I never want anyone to see me in a bad space. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I went home and I just was not present for my husband and for my 6-year-old son. And our home felt so dark and cold during that time because I wasn't functioning. I wasn't functioning as a mother, as a wife, and I was just grieving. I was grieving so much of myself, questioning God. I was very, very angry with God. And so I remember a few days had passed and I hadn't showered. I hadn't done, and again, I'm sharing everything because I'm that type of person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
transparent. And so I remember getting up to shower and I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. It was like I was looking in the mirror and I knew I was looking in the mirror, but I didn't recognize the person that was looking back at me. And it was the strangest feeling. And so I remember hearing God's voice. And so growing up, I've experienced the Holy Ghost and the Holy Spirit and
Mm-hmm.
what it felt like, but I've never heard his voice. I had never heard his voice. And so in that moment, he told me to write. And so at this point, I hadn't written anything in years. When I say I hadn't written anything in years, I hadn't written anything in years. I hadn't written anything. And so at the time, I wasn't thinking music. I wasn't thinking he wanted me to write music. And so I began to journal my thoughts and my feelings in terms of what I was feeling regarding the loss of the baby at that time. So that's what I was writing. And so I began writing, and that writing actually turned into music. And so I look back then, and I think now, like, God is so intentional. He's so
Mm-hmm.
intentional. And so 3 days passed, and I had already written the six songs in 3 days. And again, I hadn't written in years. I hadn't written music in years. So 3 days passed. I wrote 6 songs, which are the 6 songs that's on my debut EP titled Broken Masterpiece. And
Broken
Broken
masterpiece.
Masterpiece,
Yeah.
yes, Broken Masterpiece. It's kind of self-explanatory. Like in that moment, those songs are a reflection of how I felt and how broken I was, and how even though I was broken, God was picking up the pieces and putting me all back together, and forming the masterpiece that is me. And so I'm so thankful, because the way that I'm talking about it and able to explain and talk through everything without getting emotional or sad is
Mm-hmm.
nowhere near where I was in that moment, or even a year ago, because it was really tough for me to talk through it, but it just shows God's intentionality, my growth, and his strength that he's given me, this strength that he's given me. And I have no doubt that the baby Cooper, who I conceived and who I lost, served her purpose. I never would have been able to say that in 2019 on May 23rd when I lost her, that she was never intended to be here. Her purpose was to lead me to my purpose.
Yep. Yep. Praise the
Her
Lord.
purpose was
Woo.
to lead me to my purpose.
Mm.
I gave birth to my purpose. And that baby, oh, she served something so much greater. And I can say that now because I know where I am now. I know where I am in
Right.
my relationship with God. I know where I am now in ministering and being able to minister to people through word and through songs. And I never ever thought, like, growing up as a PGK, that I would be ministering to people through song or verbally, in these interviews, and when I have these shows. Like, God takes me to a place of familiarity and comfort. And that's what I realized, was that years back when I was running from God, I was running from my purpose.
Yep.
I
Yep.
was
You
running
was
from
you
my
you was
purpose.
already destined for that.
I
You
was
was destined
already
for that.
destined for
Yeah.
this. Like, and so it's funny, because a concert I just had on November 13th, my husband, he always asks me this before I perform. He's like, "Are you nervous? You ready?" And I tell him the same thing, and I'm like, "No, I'm not nervous. Like, I've been singing since I was 9. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
this is different. Like, it's a different space, because singing songs that other people have written and recorded is so much different than singing and performing songs that you've written from the heart, and that were written and birthed out of place of hurt, grief, and now, like, gratitude and grateful,
Yeah.
which is this project now. You know what I mean? So it's so I'm on a this is my assignment.
Yep.
This is my I'm on assignment. And so I told my husband this last time, my concert, when he asked me, he was like, "You nervous? You ready?" And I was like, "I was created for this. This is why I was created, to share. He brought me through all of this so that I can share and help someone else overcome, to help someone else who may have, be falling short, or losing their faith, or doubting God. You know what I mean? Like, he has brought me through it because he knew that I was strong enough to withstand the pain and the hurt and the heartbreak. And he knew that I would be able to minister to others and encourage them through my music, and just through sharing my testimony."
Powerful. You have a powerful, powerful story. And that's what we do. That's what we do on the overtime. It's real talk,
It's real talk,
it's real
real life,
talk.
Real talk.
And like I said, your story is so powerful. How they say, you raise a child up in church, they may stray away, but
That's
come right
it.
back.
That's it.
Come right back. And you had a little bit of Job in there,
Yeah.
You went through all
Absolutely.
those devastations, but
Absolutely.
still got blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, man.
Absolutely.
Whew.
Absolutely. And I look back and I'm so grateful for how I was raised and the foundation that was set. And that's why it's so important. I told my husband, I said it's so important that we establish strong Christian foundations for our children, because you never know what the world and what the enemy is going to throw at them, that they
Mm-hmm.
may, become discouraged at some point, or
Yep.
they may fall on hard times, but they need to know that regardless, God is going to always be by their side, and God is never going
Mm-hmm.
to give up on them, and God is going to fight right beside them, and he's going to help them fight their battle and overcome, you know what I mean, and defeat the enemy. But they have to stay faithful. Even if it slips, God is going to stay right there, and he's going to be patient.
Yep.
God was so patient with me through my heartbreak and my heartache. He was so patient with me, because I was rejecting him in that moment. Like, how could you? Like, I prayed
Mm-hmm.
for this baby. How could you? How could you? And he was just standing there. It's like I can envision him sitting there and just taking it. You know what I mean? Like, how you take out your frustration, you know what I mean? On like a punching bag. I can envision him just taking every punch that I was giving him, like, let it all out. Let it all out. Let it all out.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel better soon. Let it all out. Let it all out. I'll be your punching bag. Let it all out. And I did. I let God have it.
Mm-hmm.
I let him have it verbally. I let him have it physically. I let him have it. And he let me have it. Like, okay, you done? Then this is what I have for you. This is my
Mm-hmm.
plan.
Yeah,
This
I
is
was gonna say that. Yeah, it could say, all right,
this is my path. You
my
ready?
daughter, my daughter, are you finished?
Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you done? Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. Like, he was like, okay, you done now? You got it all out? Let's go. This is what I've been trying to show you over all these years. I've been trying to get your attention by doing this. You hit this roadblock, and then this happened, and then this happened. This is what I've been trying to show you.
That's right. And what's the
And
saying? Our thoughts is not his thoughts.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That is
Nope.
so right. It's just I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm walking in God's plan for me, and his will. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I finally stopped to listen and see what God was trying to show me and tell me. And I finally just said yes. Like, it's so easy when you just say yes and you submit
Mm-hmm.
and stop fighting and resisting God. Doors will open.
Yep.
He will make things so plain and so easy just by saying yes and submitting.
Yep. And you were blessed with a beautiful daughter.
Yes, and I was blessed with a beautiful, beautiful daughter. And so when
Won't
I
he do
first,
it? Mm.
honey, he did that. He did that. And when I say was, I was so overcome with emotion because we were not trying. After we lost the baby, our prayer was, whatever your will is, God.
Yeah.
If you want us to have another baby, if we are destined to have another baby, great. If not, that's also great. So I had already started working on this project,
Mm-hmm.
Promises, this next EP. I had already started working on it when I found out that I was pregnant. And when I found out I was pregnant, it was like, it was an like an out of body experience. Like, God, are you playing with me right now? Like, what is, like, don't play with me, God. Like, stop playing. Like, stop it right now. Like, don't play with me. Don't play with my emotions, because we've been here, God. Like, and this is not something you play with me about. And so I took a few tests. And so I told my husband, called me. I was like, I think we're pregnant. And he was like, okay. And so we had always said, if God allows us to be pregnant again, we're just going to take it day by day.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take it day by day. We're not going to stress out. And it was the most stress-free, calm pregnancy.
Mm.
Not one issue, not one bump, not one scare, nothing. And I was high risk. I was high risk for obvious reasons, because we had lost the other baby in such a tragic and devastating, sudden way. And so I was high risk, and so they monitored everything. Had me, monitor moderate, moderate. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Moderate bed rest,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean, like off my feet. Most of the time, if I didn't have to be on my feet, I didn't need to be on the feet, and so stress-free pregnancy. Now, we didn't announce the pregnancy until I was 32 weeks pregnant, and it was easy to hide because COVID. No one was
Right.
weren't
Right.
visiting anyone. Most of the time when we talk to people, like, this is how much they would see because we'd be on video. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, our parents found out, our mom, his dad, and then my parents found out at 30 weeks. And then 32 weeks, so 2 weeks later, that's when we announced it to everyone. No one knew. We held it. No one knew. Like, I took maternity pictures. We went on vacation right before the baby was born. No one knew I was pregnant.
Wow.
No one knew. And so we surprised everyone. But everyone understood. Like, everyone understood that we wanted to, make
Yeah,
sure that
take one
everything,
day at a
just
time.
one
Yep.
day at a time, we want to make sure that
Yep.
everything was good to go before we announced it. And so, yes, healthy, beautiful baby girl. Her name is Isley. For obvious reasons, we named her after the Isley brothers. Love the Isley brothers. And so, yes, her name is Isley Ray. And it's so ironic. Like, it wasn't planned, but she was due June 8th, but she was born May 21st, which is Ron Isley's birthday.
Wow. Okay. Mm.
I said, God, you trying to tell us something? Like, what? God.
Okay.
I had no idea. So my coworker was like, did you know Isley was born on Ron Isley's birthday? I was like, stop playing. And so I Googled it and I said, I will be.
Wow.
Wow. She was born on Ronald Isley's birthday. And so that's a story I look forward to telling her. But no, our name was picked out as soon as I found out I was pregnant. I knew I wanted to name her Isley, whether it was a boy or a girl, or maybe it was going to be named Isley. Because it's just unique. It's different. I love it.
Yeah. I
And
like it.
I
I
love
like
it.
it.
So,
Yeah.
didn't know she was going to be born on one of the Isley brothers' birthdays. So, there you have it.
Wow. Like I said, your story is so powerful. And I know for sure whoever was watching or listening, you just ministered to them.
I
You know?
appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. I know for sure. That's
I
powerful.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I love the space that God's allowing me to operate in a space of vulnerability and transparency. Because, Wiz, when I say your girl was not this transparent and this open to sharing 2 years ago, I just wasn't. And it wasn't that I was not really ashamed, or I just wanted everyone to look at me and feel like I was just this strong individual who
Hmm.
never was broken, or never went through anything. Like, I just wanted to have this strong persona. And then also, like, I was more so of a private person in terms of, like, my personal life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't share everything. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like everything was for everybody. You know what I mean? But now I share openly and honestly, and it's intended for those that it's intended for. Like, you know what I mean? There's individuals who may or may not, like or enjoy my story or my music, but it's not necessarily for them. I have a number of souls that are designated to me, Natalie-J,
Hmm.
and I'm responsible for those souls and those individuals. And if you're not one of those individuals, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you're not one of those individuals in this season, but maybe next season, maybe next time around, I may catch you with something. But until then, like, I'm going to minister and share and inspire and motivate those who I'm intended to inspire.
And you're so right where you got when you were saying that a lot of people don't like to share their personal
Hmm.
experience, but it's not for us to hold.
That's right.
It's for us to tell
Yeah, you're
other
right.
people, hey, this is what I've been through. This is
Yeah.
how God transformed me. This is why I am here today.
Hmm.
If it
I
had
remember.
not been for the Lord.
That's right. That's right. I remember sharing. Again, this is a moment of transparency, and I remember sharing the fact that and this was probably a year ago, and I've never shared this with anyone outside of three people. I remember sharing that in my story that I was molested by a very close family member at the age of 11.
Mm.
I was sexually assaulted by a very close family member at the age of 11, and didn't realize at the time how that affected me growing up as a child into a teenager into an adulthood. I just remember thinking back. My mother said that, again, I'm this happy, outgoing, fun and funny, like little child. But she said at around that age is when I began to be like closed off and have like somewhat of an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't looking at it that way. Like, she didn't realize that I was internalizing something that had happened to me.
Yeah.
And so I remember sharing it. My mom found out, my sister um found out, but those are two of very few individuals who knew about it. Initially, there's only three people that knew. But as my mom found out, so sorry. As my mom found out, then obviously family members found out, and we as a Black culture and community, we don't talk enough about sexual molestation and abuse
No, true.
and
You're
and,
right.
and things like that, with especially within the family.
Right.
It either gets ignored or it gets swept under the rug, and in my case it was ignored. And so I took that as in, but it wasn't a big deal. People were ignoring it like it never happened. And so
Wow.
I internalized all of that, and it changed me in a way. And so fast forward, we are on past the preteens into the teens into adult life, until last year 2020 I shared it. I internalized it from the age of 11 years old,
That's a that's a long
all
time
the
to
way. It's a
suppress all that.
long time. And I
Yeah.
realized that what I was internalizing was just kind of like, it was in me, and it was like rotting, like rotten. Like it was rotten, and just like I needed to let it out. And once I let it out and I shared, I remember this young lady, she reached out to me, and she saw where I had shared just a little fact that, I had overcome, and I was a survivor of sexual abuse at age
Mm-hmm.
11. So she reached out to me and she did an interview, and I poured everything out. I was very, transparent and vulnerable and just honest about the whole situation. And she asked me about forgiveness. And I said, honestly, I was like, I didn't really think about whether or not I had forgiven him. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, as a Christian, you have to forgive. I said, I don't hold any ill will towards him at all, or any, bad feeling. As I've gotten older, I realized that I'm not doing anything but giving him power and
Mm-hmm.
hurting myself and sending
Right.
my soul to hell for holding a grudge or bad feelings towards this individual who was hurting or sick himself. So I can't do anything but forgive him, pray, and move on, and encourage women to do the same. For me, sharing it was like a relief. I was releasing all of that gunk and that stuff, and that stuff that felt like it was just like holding me down. And so when I released it, I felt so light and so free. So many people reached out to me and was like, your story, like I read your story and your article, and it was just so encouraging and uplifting, and this is my story, or this is my sister's story, and I'm trying to encourage her to do this. And there was so much, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I wasn't expecting it at all. And so of course I responded, and I shared what I shared with them in terms of like some encouragement, as well as
Mm-hmm.
some advice that they asked for it.
Right.
But it was just so like, wow, this is what my story has done, me sharing has done, you know what I mean? But I realized, just as me holding it in for that long of a time, like there's so many people that hold in a secret like that. You know what I mean? Like best friends from college were reaching out to me like, I never knew you experienced that. And they did it. They did not. No one ever knew. They're like, meeting you, you never know that you experience that.
Yeah, because you suppressed it so much to the
I
point
did.
where it
I
became a
suppressed.
norm, you
Yeah,
know.
it
And
did.
9 years is a long time.
Yeah, it just became like a part of me. You know what I mean? Like it just became a part of me. It's just what I carried. You know what I mean? Like, there's a saying like people carry so much baggage. It was just so much that I was just used to carrying. And so I just got used to the load. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, your story truly has not only touched other women, but like I said, whoever watched this video and listen on my show, they'll be touched.
I appreciate that. I
They'll
do.
be touched.
I want to encourage women and men, children. I just want to encourage everyone because, everyone and anyone can be a victim of abuse.
Yes. Yes.
Both men and
Yes.
women suffer and grieve the loss of a child, whether it's a child that you were not able to raise or a child that you were able to raise.
Yeah.
It's been in your life for some time. Grief is grief. It doesn't even
Yeah.
necessarily have to be a child, but I do. I want to encourage them to just pray through it. Pray through it. Even when you don't, we find ourselves sometimes praying for God to bless us and praying and thanking him in the good times. But it's those bad times that you
Mm-hmm.
really need to like lean in.
Yep.
Even when things are not going your way. You know what I mean?
Trust the process. Trust the
Trust
process.
the process. Trust
Yes.
the process. You have to pray through that thing. Because if you give up, like you can't give, you have to work with God.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work with God. Like God, don't allow God to do all of the work. You have to work with God.
That's right.
And it will be so much better on the other side. You just have to keep the faith and pray through that thing. That's the only thing that got me through everything that I've experienced is just faith and prayer. Faith and
Mm-hmm.
prayer. Faith and prayer.
Faith and prayer.
Faith and prayer.
Wow.
Yeah,
Mm.
I do.
Whew.
I love these types of conversations where you
Mm.
guys let me lead and you guys follow, my lead and kind of, go based off of what I'm sharing. Instead of, there's interviews where you'll get on and they'll be like, well, tell me about this. And then I'll answer the question. Okay, tell me about this. And then I'll answer the question. But it's like, they're not really listening to what I'm saying because
Right.
you're just going to a whole nother question. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I love these real conversations. You know what I mean?
And that's why I said that this is not an interview. I tell it to whoever come on. I said it's a
It's
conversation.
a conversation. Like
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's
I
real
need to start-
talk.
Real talk. I love it. I do.
Yeah.
I love that. Like and any time, like I'm here. I'm here for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you can see, your girl can converse. I can talk.
And before we came on, I went to the Lord. I prayed. I said, Lord, just let this conversation be a real conversation, a real talk. And allow my sister to be able to speak her mind and
Yeah.
and speak with confidence just to show the world that what you had done for her. I went through all that in prayer, and here it is. It's just a conversation.
A conversation. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because I don't get to have enough conversations with, honestly. I have a lot of interviews, but I don't get to have a lot of conversations where they get to know me,
Mm-hmm.
me, like Natalie. You can know the artist. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out what I'm about and what I'm talking about in my music. You can know the artist, but like me and what's behind the story and the person behind the music,
You don't know my story.
baby, you don't know my story. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Love every last bit of it.
Mm.
And I do. I love to share because I know that even if it helps one person,
Mm-hmm.
I've done my job.
Yep. Exactly.
Even if it touches one person, I've done my job. I'm happy with that one person. That's it.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen. Like it's I never was left speechless before, I don't even know where to go from here. Like, woo. Yeah. Wow. It's just it is awesome though.
I appreciate you. I do.
Now, real quickly, we can switch gears now.
Absolutely.
Author of 7 children's books.
Oh, woo!
Mm.
Baby, the family's doing his research. I love it. I
Woo!
love it. Yes,
What
yes, yes.
what inspires you to begin to write children books?
Okay, so my writing, starting writing poetry, like I feel like different things inspire different writing, different methods of writing. So obviously, my testimony, my story, my life is what inspires my music.
Mm-hmm.
So with the children's books, my son, he is such a huge inspiration. And so when I first began writing, it was so unintentional, Wiz. When I say when I began writing these books, it was not planned to be a book. Okay. So when we lost the baby, when we lost Cooper, Chase was 6, and he was so young and didn't understand grief and loss and death. He was so excited about the baby. He was excited about being a big brother. And so, I mean, we was gassing him up. Oh, you're gonna be a great big brother, this, that. You know what I mean? So he was super excited. And so when we lost her, I was grieving, and he could obviously tell that I was very sad. Mommy was really, really sad. And so he would always say, Mommy, can I touch the baby? Can I feel the baby? Like, even though we had lost her, and it made it super, super hard for me, but I knew that he didn't understand. And so I told my husband's Ryan, I was like, I need to find a book because we read to him all the time. And so I was like, I need to find a book to read it so he can understand conceptually what it is that I'm going through and that we're experiencing right now, and that the baby is not coming. The baby's no longer in mommy's belly. And it didn't matter how many times I told him, he just couldn't comprehend that the baby was gone. Like the baby was in my belly one day, and then until it wasn't. And so I looked and I looked and I looked, and I could not find a book that had brown children in it. Now, this is the key. I could find a lot of books about grief and loss and death of a loved one. And there was even a book that compared the loss of the baby's granny to a toy. And I was like, that's not a good book that I want to, that's not what I want him to relate it to. It's not anything like losing a toy at all. So I wrote a book. I wrote it, and it was just on notebook paper, and I wrote it down, and I did, if I wish I would have kept the illustrations, because your girl can't draw.
So you can't
not draw. There's my weakness right there, world. Natalie-J cannot draw. And so I did my best to illustrate what I was trying to, my story. And so I wrote this book, and I remember him calling it the Cooper book. He'd be like, Mama, can we read the Cooper book before I go to sleep? He called it the Cooper book because the baby's name was Cooper.
Okay.
And so he called it the Cooper book. And so one night I was reading it to him, and my husband's like, this is really good. Like, probably should see if you can get this published. Like, this is really good. And so I was like, you think so? And he's like, it's really good. I was like, okay, you know. And so what did I do? I'm not going to see if anybody can publish it. I'm going to publish it myself.
There you go.
And so absolutely. Got my LLC, baby, publishing it myself. And so I did. I found someone that could, edit it, do the illustration, real quickly, and then do the printing. And so I sold it on Amazon. Within the first week, it was like the best-selling grief book.
Wow.
Yes, I was so excited. I got that. And I was like, really? What? Really? And so it did really good on Amazon. And so it was just a book that I didn't put much thought to it. It was more of my heart, because it was for my son. It was for him to understand about grief and loss. And so as I read it, he stopped asking me about the baby, because he understood the baby's in heaven.
That's why it was the bestseller, because there's no fluff in it.
There's no fluff.
It came from here.
Absolutely. It's directly from the heart. And so Chase is he's a very interesting character, somewhat like his mom. He's got a lot of his mom's energy. And so with that energy comes some some tests and some obstacles
Okay.
with channeling that energy. I told you my grandmother was like, we're gonna set this girl on fire for the Lord because she's on fire everywhere else. You know what I mean? She's got a lot of energy. I was very hyper as a child. My son is like a clone of Natalie. I said, God, you got a sense of humor because this right here. Okay. And
Now,
so,
I have to ask you: did your parents say, "I hope you have a child just like you"?
oh yeah, God is gonna get you. He's gonna teach you. He's gonna, and baby, he's teaching. Okay, he is.
That's old school right there. That's old school.
Oh, he is. And so,
Wait till you have a child.
yeah, just wait. Exactly. And so,
Okay.
lots of notes home from the teacher, from the principals. Baby, the teacher would come to our car, baby. They wouldn't even wait for me to read the email that they had sent, baby. Chase would come out, and right behind me would be the teacher, or one time there was the librarian. I said, how you get in trouble
A
in libraries, son?
librarian.
The librarian came to the car. And I said, you know what? So I began to write this series, the Chase Anthony Collection. And so it's a book about having a bad day at school, which we don't
Okay.
really say the word bad in our house. And so the book ends up telling you there's no such thing as a bad day, just an opportunity to learn and grow. Because we don't say bad or you're bad or you're acting bad or you're a bad child or you had a bad. We don't like saying the word bad because it's a
It's
negative.
labeling.
It's
Right.
labeling and it's negative. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I titled it that way on purpose because if you read the book, it's the complete opposite. So bad day at school, first day at school, losing your teeth, telling the truth, because baby, we are struggling through that. Telling the truth. And then oh my goodness, the fifth. Oh, sleeping in mommy and daddy's bed. Those are all books that every parent can relate to. And they are all true stories about my son, Chase.
Wow.
And they are so entertaining. And is quoting things that he says because he is very much outspoken and very just rambunctious, and he will say anything to anybody and anything to get out of trouble as well. So yes, they're very entertaining. Now I did, after the first book and its success, I did invest a lot more in the quality of the book. And so you'll notice from my first book to these collections, the illustration is like on another level because
Okay.
I knew that at this point I had some followers in terms of me as an author. And I did. I wanted to just invest a little more in myself and in the collection for Chase to do a great illustration. I mean, it is literally like illustrated by one of the best illustrators. And it does. It's very polished and professional collection of books. And so I'm very, very proud of them. And those will not be found on Amazon. I'm selling.
I'm about to ask you, where
Yeah,
can they find your
those will not
books?
be found on Amazon. Those are just strictly being sold from my website, which is
Okay.
www.NatalieJeans.com, just my name. And so that's where they can
Y'all
purchase.
hear that? You hear that?
You
Support
hear
my
that?
sister because I'm going to support you, no doubt.
I appreciate
Like I
it.
said, I have 6 grandchildren, so
They can,
and they
yeah,
all in
they,
all ages, all in school. So and
absolutely, yeah. And the book
it'd be good
ranges,
for them.
preschool to third grade.
Yep.
It's easy to read, fun, illustrated. There's an illustration, a picture on every page. And we're just super proud of them. And Chase is obviously very proud because the books are about him and the character, the illustrator. She did a great job depicting Chase and our family. So he's like, "What's the next book's going to be about, Mom?" And I was like, I'm not sure. I haven't been, inspired to think about what the next books are going to be about. I'm really focusing on this collection, because we sold my first order. We sold all of those books, and now I'm on my second order that I've ordered for, restocking. And so we're trying to get through selling those before I think about what is the next project going to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
In terms
Right.
of
And when the time comes, it's going to like boom hit you. It's going to
that's
hit
it.
you. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So I'm like, I don't like forcing things. Like I said, like if it's not, my heart's not in it, and it's not something that God has given me or inspired me to do, like it's not gonna be 100%. And so I'm not gonna do anything halfway.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Amen.
Wow. So I mean, what is it like to balance all of this?
Oh,
You're a music artist,
I
you're
do,
an author, you're a mother, you're a wife, and like, how do you balance?
and I work full time.
And you work full time. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I'm in HR. I work
Okay.
full time, and so
Wow.
I honestly I do get asked that question, especially when individuals know that I also write books, and so I, I'm very, very organized. Like when I say I'm
You
organized,
have to be.
I am like my family and some of my coworkers call me OCD, but I'm OCD. I'm OCD.
Well, if you're OCD, then yeah, you're structured.
I'm very.
Yeah.
Everything has a place, and if it's out of its place, you don't want to see my face when it's out of its place. So everything has its place, and everything is routine. So that's why when this little baby came along and she was throwing me off my schedule, girl was kind of like, okay, God, okay, God, okay, God. Like, I was having to adjust and I was out of my comfort zone. And I'm still out of my comfort zone for the most part when it comes to her because, babies, like, they're not on nobody's schedule for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still adjusting to that. But no, very organized. I have calendars, desk calendars, calendars on my work computer, calendars on my personal computer, calendars on my phone. I have a million reminders. I do. I have a reminder for the reminder for the reminder for the reminder. I do. I don't miss anything. I'm still on time. I make sure of it. If I say that I'm going to do something at 7, I need to put it on my calendar for like 6, just to make sure, because things happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when
Right.
I have a baby, things happen. But my husband is a huge support. He is. Like we talk through what the week looks like. What do you have going on? What do you have going on? Okay, well, I have this, so I need you to move this around, and vice versa. But he's
What's your husband's name?
Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan. And he owns his own State Farm office, so he's a business
Oh,
owner.
nice.
Yes, he's a business owner, and he is also a basketball referee. So he's got his own things going on, running his own business and then refereeing basketball. And then here I am trying to run the house and work. And I homeschool Chase. Chase has homeschooled now for 2 years. And so I homeschool him. The baby is here at home with me. I work full time. I do my music and I do my books, and I'm staying sane. And so when I tell my husband, it's so funny. This is true story. This happened today. When I tell my husband, babe, I need a bubble bath.
You better get up there and run that
water. I need a bubble bath. It's so true. It's so true. I took a bubble bath today. That's why I'm so happy and I'm refreshed because I just need the lights to be out, some candles lit.
Yeah.
Sit in a hot bubble bath and rest and get my mind just relaxed, and then I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, when you say something like that, I need a bubble bath, it's no response. Just kiss you on the forehead and go up there and run that water.
That's it. He knows that's my sign. Babe, I need a bubble bath. Woo. That's it. And then your girl is good. I'm back refreshed. I'm ready to roll for round, when he gets home. It's so funny. When he gets home, that my 9 to 5 is done. So then I got to start my 5 to 1 a.m. Mm-hmm. And that's how I operate in my day. You know what I mean? Like from the time he gets home, we'll spend time together. Once the kids are in bed, then that's when I'll focus on promoting, marketing, whatever I got to do for my music and my books. Wow. Until I'm not independent anymore. Hello, somebody. You out there listen? Until I'm not independent anymore. I won't have to be my manager, my marketer, my promoter, my everything.
Wow. I enjoyed this conversation. My goodness.
Me too.
And you wouldn't believe we've been talking for an hour, Time
flies when you're having fun.
Woo. My goodness. I definitely have to have you back.
Absolutely.
On the Overtime Show.
This has been awesome.
I do want to dig more into your music, but I don't want to take up any more of your time. So I'm gonna have you back on the show because I saw that you was working with my man Derek Minor.
Yes, Derek. So Derek, really quick. I told you I can talk, baby. I can take 2 hours. Baby, how much time next time you tell me how much time I got, I can take him some time. Okay. Derek and his wife is my childhood friend. She's actually my college roommate. And so I would write and sing Derek's hooks in college.
Really?
Yes, when he was Prodigal Son and went by D.
Yeah.
We go back, baby. We go all the way back.
Wow, small world.
Small world. And so I ran into Derek at one of the shows that I was doing in Nashville, and he was like, Nat, I've been telling you to hit me up. Like, you need something, hit me up. But I'm one of those people, like, I don't want to hit you up and bother you about music. Like, you know what I mean? When I'm like, I know I have to, like, earn my way and, like, earn my stripes. And you know what I mean? Like, I know I have to work my way and show people that I'm willing to work. And not to say I'm not looking for any handouts, because I'm not looking for any handouts. Like, I want you to give me advice and tell me the do's and don'ts. I was like, but I don't want to, like, impede or impose, you know what I mean? He's like, I promise you, like, just hit me up. He's been telling me that, and I have not hit him up about music stuff. Like, I just haven't. Like, I'll send him, like, songs and be like, what you think? He'd be like, sis, this is lit. This is fire. You know what I mean? But I do. Like, I'm trying not to mix business with pleasure with me and
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I can understand it.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do that. Because I don't. Like, I wanted to just still be like family, like, seriously. And he was like, man, the growth. And I was like, yes, you better not ever tell my business on what I was doing in college. And we just
love it.
We laugh. Yes, I remember singing in the closet, singing those hooks, and hearing all those padding and the blanket and the foam. And I'm like,
oh, that's definitely old school there.
Old school. But yeah, that's the fam right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, I definitely have to have you back on. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know, like I said, that's between your 5 and 1 o'clock. So I know you got things to do. But I really, really appreciate you taking time out to rock with me on the Wiz Show Overtime.
I'm working with you always, fam.
Thank your husband and for, allowing you to have that time to sit down and talk with me. And
I will, most definitely. But I look forward to coming back so we can talk.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. We're going to have you on.
Look forward.
So before we go, let the people know how they can get a hold of you, how to get a hold of your music, your books, all that information. And of course, I'm going to be putting it on my website as well. So.
Okay, perfect. So my website is www.Natalie, jeans.com. Again, that's www.NatalieJeans.com. Follow me on Instagram at NatalieJ Music. Again, that is NatalieJ Music. Also follow my artist page on Facebook. It is Natalie Jeans, Jans, like blue jeans. Natalie Jeans Gospel Artist on Facebook. And then you can download, stream, purchase, listen to my music, play it on your playlist, put it on repeat. Apple, Deezer, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, all of it. Download it, stream it. Go support your girl. Love you guys.
You heard it. Once again, give it up for my sister in Christ, Miss Natalie-J. Thank you, my sister. You too. Like I said, it could be on the Wiz Show. Like my sister Natalie was on. You can rock with me for a conversation. All you got to do is hit me up on my email at djwizkid@gmail.com. That's djwizkid. You see that banner going across the bottom? Right there. djwizkid@gmail. Hit me up. Until the next time, be blessed. Keep God in all that you do. And always remember, if God is for you, who can be against you? Merry Christmas. And I catch you on the rebound. This is the Wiz Show Overtime. I'm your man, DJ Wiz. Peace out.